Hi, welcome to another typology interview with Heather. How are you, Heather?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah. I think I know a bit about your type because you mentioned just now that you have NE, and I think you're lead TI as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then, just an INTP then somehow in some form, right?
Yes. You want me to keep that the rest a secret, or do
No.
you
Yeah.
need?
Yeah. Yeah. No. We'll reveal it as we talk. So your TI is masculine then?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Very.
All right.
Or it's more that my FE is so feminine that I guess that makes my TI masculine.
Right. Right. You don't see that your TI is stubborn at all in any way, or it won't move on what you think?
Well, I like to think it's flexible, but then I end up finding out when people push on it that yeah, I mean, there's a certain because of the cat energy. You're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Then you're not, and
Right.
it's only when you're not fine that you're like, oh, there's a brick wall behind that.
Right. Yeah. And also like maybe well for mine's also masculine, right? So for me it's like I will decide on what is true and give me all the information, give
Yeah.
it over, but in the end it's my decision and that's it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I figured that out on my own.
Yeah.
I don't want any help,
Right.
and I'm not even flexible in that area. Like, give it to me, and I'll go away, and I'll decide if I believe that along with you or not.
Right. Yeah. And well, I think also I am flexible um
Uh-huh.
on it only if like there's a new information or something, but like in the
Oh
end
yeah.
it's my decision. Yeah. In the like I'll hear everything, no problem, but in the end, yeah. Is that the
Oh yeah,
same?
yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense for someone else to decide what's true for me.
Right. Oh, so you feel like it's true for you, like it's what's true for you, your TI?
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody has a personal truth, and
Right.
I'm very fine with someone else's truth being different because they have a different experience and different paradigms and
Right.
all this into it. And I'm like, well, that's they have a different reality than I do,
Right.
and sometimes it's fun to see if we share any truths. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
we both agree that this is true, so there's a little overlap in our realities, but
Right. Yeah,
sometimes
yeah. I see that, like I see that you're looking at it from like an outer perspective that it's your truth, but from an inner perspective, it's just what's true from your perspective.
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I find that it helps when I get to the perspective from the outside because then I can
Right.
other people having different truths from their reality,
Right.
and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
less confrontational that way.
Right. Yeah. I guess, yeah, you get less invested in your own. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. So does it happen a lot that you discuss TI things with people? Like, do you have people that are very thinking?
I like them better when they are.
Yeah.
I find that if they're not, then I sometimes will play the game, the emotional game with them while I'm
Right.
running I am ahead about the situation. So
Right.
I'm like
Yeah.
analyzing while I'm emoting.
Do you find that it's like if you're show your TI too much in social situations, people are just sort of put off? They're just like, okay, well, or the opposite.
Um, it does. I think sometimes it intimidates people more than I realize.
Okay.
When I get into that mode and there's no FE to it, when I'm
Right.
not like attention to how it comes out or it comes across, I'm not thinking about the spin. I'm not
Right.
thinking about the
The
tone.
spin. Yeah.
Yeah, in the tone, that sort of stuff. When that gets left behind, then it can be very robotic and pretty intense. And people are like, I just wanted to have a conversation about the weather, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, back to the weather, back to the weather.
Right. Cool. And are you like really aware of your NE? Like, are you more aware of your NE than you are of your TI, or?
Yes, yeah, I think I am. If it's almost like I'm an ENTP, but I am a decider. So,
Right.
and since I'm tribal of self, it just sort of falls into that arena, I
Right.
guess. But every Myers-Briggs functional type test that I've ever taken has always put me really, really high on any.
On NE. Okay.
That's never been a question for me. That's
Yeah,
always,
we
if they'd come back with not any, I would have been like, okay, you need to explain this to me because everyone else and everything I know about
Right.
myself is any.
Right, right. So yeah, we didn't I usually start there what your history is in
Yeah, history.
typology. So yeah, let's just do that really quick before we continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have an actual SI item here. I thought it'd be sort of fun to show. My very first Myers-Briggs test in 1994. There
Wow.
it
That's in
is.
surprisingly good condition too.
Right. Well, I have a filing system, and I was rather
Right.
surprised I found it again.
So you got INTJ then.
I did. I got INTJ. It was proctored by the college psychologist when when I was a freshman in college. So it was during a time where I was very regimented in my schedule and very thinking about what kind of future I want and what's my major. And so I think maybe the judging function was a little stronger just because of my lifestyle and the choices you make when you're that age.
Yeah. I think also like the whole test is thrown off by that whole idea of perception versus judging, because like that's really where the test fails, I think, most of the time.
I do know, I remember one question in particular I thought was really interesting. They're like, do you watch soap operas? That was one of the questions on this original Myers-Briggs test. And I remember
Right.
thinking to myself, oh crap, I do, because I had recently left home and for the first time, daytime television was available to me.
Right.
And um, the days of our lives, and I was just sucked in.
Do you think that
Was
would have
sucked.
been like a placebo question, or they actually score based on that?
They actually scored. It was actually a feeling question. If you
Wow.
watch soap operas, and I'm like,
What the heck?
it's a weird addiction, and I'm not really proud of it, and I would never like openly admit it. But here it is on a test, and I want this to be accurate, so I guess I'm going to say,
Right. Well, you just
yeah,
openly admitted it now to anyone who actually watches the channel. So.
right. It was only like a year and a half stint when I was like a freshman in college. I was like, I have a
Yeah.
television, suddenly this free range of I can watch anything I want, and here, the days
Right.
of our life every day. I was just like, okay, I got to find out what Stefano's doing now.
Yeah. But you answered yes to that, but it didn't change the fact that you got lead thinker. So that's still,
Right, right.
yeah.
So I guess there was enough questions about
Right.
being calculating and pragmatic and that sort of thing. I'm just like,
Right.
well, yeah, I would like do that.
Right. Cool. Okay. So then after that, you continued into with typology, MBTI, something, or?
I think I was curious initially, and I was like, okay, I'm an architect, an INTJ. This is, and I was going to define myself by this, but a lot of the pieces didn't turn out to be how I was behaving in real life.
Yeah.
So there was sort of a dissonance there, and
Yeah.
sometimes when something stops working for me, I put it down.
So yeah, so
So
you put it down. Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me too. Yeah.
yeah, I
Nice.
tried it first. I was like, a lot of this resonates and some of it doesn't. And then
Right.
I was just, and it must have been another 10 years before I discovered Jungian functions. And then I was like, okay, well, there's another layer that I haven't investigated. There's more to this than just the Myers-Briggs 16.
Right.
And, and then as I started getting into that, I just started looking for online tests that were free and didn't need my email because I didn't want everyone to be emailing spam stuff. But then I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
collect all these, and then once a month I would just take all the tests again. So I was building like a database of history.
Right.
And the only thing that consistently showed up was any, always. Any, and that I was FI or TI, but it wasn't really clear which. So, there was definitely a strong sense of self, and there was a strong sense of any. And other than that, it wasn't really clear.
Yeah. Okay. And so then like are you really aware? Okay, yeah, well, let's continue quick. So Dave Superpowers after that you got into it, right? After the
Yeah, I enjoyed his older YouTube channel,
yeah,
and so when his new stuff came up, I was like, oh, and I loved the graphics, and it was a really clear presentation, and
right.
it um, it had some different angles to it, and as those videos started pouring in, I was like, I totally wanted to take the class, and I was like,
Right.
okay, this is a different approach or a different
Yeah.
layer, and then I wasn't even in the class a couple months before. I was like, I wanted to figure it out on my own if I could. And then I figured out that I couldn't because there were some pieces I just couldn't see.
Yeah. And the class
I,
gave it to you right away?
I can't see the T over F in myself. Not really well.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
Interesting.
because I feel like I'm so, sensitive and emotionally available and
Right. But like today, can you see that? Like, did you see that
yeah,
you?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, well, I see that my thinking is attached to my identity.
Right.
And I see that in times of stress, that's where I go.
Right.
If, so the one that I really struggle with and is a real problem is everyone else and my emotions with everyone else.
Right. So that makes perfect
So
sense. Yeah.
and that gets messy really easily. But my own thinking, it's always like, well, that's what I do.
That's
That
who you
everything,
are.
yeah,
And it's comfortable and it's just who you are. You're in your element.
yeah, and I know that I'm not like a STEM genius. I mean, I
Right.
understand the limitations to my cognitive process, and I'm perfectly at home with that. It's not a problem. I mean, they always say TI is like super intelligent, and I'm like, eh. I think they can be, but it's not necessarily true.
So yeah, this is something that I've been talking to other TIs about too, is that they don't understand what's it called, the some effect, I forget the name. It was Kimberly that said it's just that you don't understand how intelligent you actually are. Like you just think you're like everyone else. It's the same thing happens to me at work too. It's like
Oh,
I'm talking to people and I just think they're on my level, and then like they don't understand, and I'm like, why not? Like what's going on? Doesn't that, like, yeah.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So like it feels like I'm just the same as everyone else, but for some reason, like you might come off as or might actually be more intelligent without knowing it. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm not really comparing myself to other people
Yeah,
on an
exactly.
intelligence. So
Exactly.
that come up, I compare myself to other people on an emotional level. I mean,
Right.
and I'm not necessarily even to stack rank them. I think this is one thing that came up is that the feminine extroverted functions don't necessarily stack rank the same way the masculine extroverted functions do. It's more like I'm looking for a sense of unity. So I
Unity.
really kind of want to be like everybody else. I'm not
Right.
really
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
to differentiate myself in a lot of ways that are, because I have enough FE that I want to belong.
Right. The other thing is I found that if you don't belong, then you get the tidal waves. If you start standing out
Yeah.
too much. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've actually discovered that too, is that when I start to feel superior, that's when I start to have the problems.
Right,
So
exactly.
that's been a lesson I've learned in my life. I think I finally got it, maybe my mid 30s,
Right.
that any sense of superiority is a problem.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily, if I am more intelligent than everybody else, then it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Humility is the TI's best friend, I think, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that any like you're aware of it. Explain how it works in your day-to-day life, or how you've seen it, how it brings all that information to your TI to process, or, yeah.
Um, well, there was actually, I wanted to talk about this a little bit. There was a test I took in like 95 that has various aptitudes. I had
Okay.
a extensive aptitude testing taken. And one of the aptitudes was what they call ideaphoria, where it is the ability to have a variety of things from your imagination.
Okay.
So they would ask a what if question. What if you didn't have legs? What if you didn't need to sleep anymore? What if you could go anywhere you wanted in a blink of an eye? These sort of what if questions that were
Right.
very open-ended and offered a lot of room for a variety of imaginative responses.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
They said, we don't care about the quality of the answers. We only are looking for quantity. As
Yeah.
many as you can think, as fast as you can write them.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And I just sort of turned off all of my judging functions. And I just sort of just started vomiting on the page,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
What it could have been anything, a bird that lives underground. It's a squirrel that has laser eyeballs. I mean, just whatever came
Silly
to
thing.
mind. Anything
Okay.
tied even remotely back to the purpose of the question. That was
So
it.
you didn't even look to see if it was viable in reality or it's plausible or nothing like that. Just put out any strange,
Yeah,
silly
not viable
plastic. Okay.
reality. As many things as I could concoct in my
Right.
head as quickly as I can concoct them. And it turns out that I was off the charts on this.
Yeah.
And I really think that I would have been even better if they'd let me type instead of write, because the limitation was
Yeah.
my brain
Or
was like
talk,
that. Yeah.
or even talk, right?
Yeah. Faster than I can talk, because as I'm talking, I'm choosing from 50 different things to say.
Right.
It,
Exactly.
I think Nardi had he calls it the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so much going on up there that it offers you all of this stuff, and you have to pick things.
Pick things. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually I think everyone's like, oh, any's an awesome function, but I've actually really struggled with it a lot
Okay.
because at any point, at any time, I don't have to be where I am. I can be in my head doing something else, going somewhere else, experiencing a simulation of some sort. I don't ever
Right.
have to be present.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
get
that
that.
creates my SI tidal waves of I'm not paying attention
I see. Okay.
because
But like,
I'm in a
sorry.
different place. Even like as this conversation is going, my brain is trying to go with 7 different tangents, and I have to
Right.
back down because I'm like, no, I'm staying here with this conversation in order to be
Right.
present.
But okay, so tell me, are they tangents on the present moment that like spawn from the present moment, or are they tangents that spawn from other things, or both?
It can be both. It depends on how interested I am in the touch points that the present moment offers.
Right.
Sometimes I walk into the thing that I'm obligated to be there for social reasons, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to open up a file from last week and go through that because I don't want to deal with anything that's happening right now.
Right.
I go back to this thing I've been saving, to explore that for a later time.
Right. And it's always that sense of exploration of exploding ideas and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a permutation where you're trying different combinations of things.
Right.
You're seeing what you can juxtapose on
Right.
top
That's
of.
NT. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what
Okay.
can I combine? How can I combine it this way, that way, this way, that way? What if I throw this in? Does that change the dynamic? What if I
Right.
throw this? That changes the dynamic. What if I stretch this out? What if I pull it this way? There's all of these different angles that you can explore it, and you can add in different elements, and you're like,
And
it's
yeah.
really a range of possibilities.
And do you feel like your SI is able to help you narrow down on possibilities, or you just have to do that with your TI, or what's going on there?
Um, I think that how does the SI come into it? Because there's definitely a sense that you have to have a
Enough
database
possibilities. Yeah.
you have to, because the imagination is working with memories of things.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember you, and I remember other people with beards, and I remember other people with hats, but that's
Right.
all I have to
Yeah.
remember that
Yeah. Yeah.
mutations.
Right. And so then that all those memories together will spawn the any.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I
Right.
think I was saying in a group somewhere that the NE is only as accurate as the SI is thoroughly precise. So
Wow.
if you aren't paying attention and you notice or remember your information wrong, then you're going to make permutations that are corrupted from that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's hard for me I get it. I understand it completely,
Yeah,
but I have the different functions. So yeah,
yeah. It's like
that's really
coding.
interesting. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah. Because
It's
I've put it the
like
same way that like if your NI is
uh-huh.
not right, like for me, my NI, if my NI is not pure, then it'll
Yeah,
corrupt the information. And you're saying the
yeah,
opposite if your SI is not pure. So yeah, it's really interesting to hear it from that point of view.
yeah. I
Interesting.
think it's a lot like the SI is like Lego blocks.
Right.
And if
Okay.
the blocks are broken or they're missing parts, then you can't build things properly with them, or the
Right.
things are going to fall apart, or they're not going to be accurate to the model if you've got the wrong SI pieces in the packet.
Right. So are you consume sleep or consume play?
Consume play.
Consume play. And so then you go sleep afterwards or blast afterwards?
Blast.
Oh, so you're low sleep then.
I am. Yes.
Is that
Yes.
true? Like, do you find that that's real?
Yes. It's mostly that I don't have my facts straight all the time,
I see.
and I haven't really sorted myself out.
Uh-huh.
So I can go with something before I know what is true
Right.
for me, sensory sense. Like
So then all
what
that's
action, I don't need
yeah,
to know what action
right. So then
to.
all that stuff you were saying about the SI being pure is like real for you because like you don't spend the time to make sure it's pure.
Right, right. My
Right.
PI doesn't go through and assess it, but when it does, then I get some much more effective NE.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you found value in actually going through the facts and doing that, going through your
Yeah.
memories and yeah.
I mean, like I have to do taxes because
Okay.
it's, end of March. and I did not file away the instructions for a complex piece of the taxes that I do every year. I've done it for 7 or 8 years now, but I never remember. And last year I wrote it down, but I don't know what I did with that. So I have to go back and I have to research it, and I have to look it up
Uh,
again online, and I have to get that straight, because if I don't get it straight, the whole thing is going to be a mess.
right. So you don't have that memory anchor that can just reproduce that effect sort of thing. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And I'm really impressed with people who remember the things that matter.
Right.
Remember the things that are actually true, as opposed to remembering a permutation of them that is distorted. I mean,
Right.
so many things that I remember that people go, actually didn't happen that way. I'm like, you're probably right. I don't. Because I haven't really sat with it and solidified it as much as some other people have.
Right. So is that SI feminine then, or
I have masculine, feminine. I mean, masculine sensory.
masculine? Okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
so then the memory should be okay.
Well, it's like I remember very little pieces.
Right.
Like, um, I remember there was this man named Pete Benson who was a dentist, and he told me once that a certain color of lipstick would help my teeth look whiter. And his wife gave me a gift for our daughter 18 years ago that was pink and had little strawberries on it. But
Wow.
does this matter? Is this important? I mean, and you, I mean, my memory is very solid, but
Right.
I mean, there's definitely a sense of I'm lacking the prioritization, being a TI,
Right.
the actual value set of the memory. I remember the stuff that doesn't matter
Oh,
sometimes
that's
more than
interesting that you tied in value there, that you like you don't remember valuable memories. You remember and memories that are just true.
random stuff.
Random
Yeah,
stuff that actually happened though that are just true. Yeah.
yeah. And
Interesting.
I don't seem to have a lot of control over what I remember and what I don't remember. And this
Right.
can be disappointing to people who have sentimental memories with me and I don't remember them.
Have you done something, or have you put something into place to sort of try to sort that through, to actually try to do something with that? Like, at the end of the day, write down what happened to you during the day, or go over things. I don't know.
Yeah, I've started journaling more.
Right.
That's a big thing, and also reviewing those journals is a big
Right.
thing, because
Yeah. Yeah.
doing it is more important sometimes than blasting it. Um, Also, when I run into a problem, I actually have to go back and go through the memory of that incident. I learned that from Byron Katie. I don't know if you take the class, but she
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
one
I
of the
saw. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, she was one of the people they typed in the class, and the whole idea of, she has ST sleep as well.
Right.
So he
Which is
explained to
demon
me,
tea, no?
yeah, demon
Yeah.
T.
Okay.
But the fact that the sleep was lower because she's a play first. The fact that she had to go and actually remember the thing and what actually happened, for her to pull back and actually recall and play
Right.
back that memory like a movie in her head, and actually assess the accuracy and precision of that. Was that accurate to what actually happened, and reassess whether it was accurate or not.
Right. Did
So I do that when I run into a problem. I go, okay, and I have to think back, because I have masculine sensory. It's all in there, but I
yeah.
haven't I
Right.
haven't actually run it through the test phase.
The
You
post
know,
processing. Yeah.
I haven't processed it, so it's all
Yeah.
sitting there in a big pile waiting to be processed. And so when I run into a problem, I'm like, I need to process that memory, pull it back up, think it through.
Oh, so when you run into a problem, you first have to do a little bit of processing before you can actually. Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, especially
Yeah.
when there's a difference of opinion about what happened, then I have to actually go, okay, what do I actually think happened?
Right.
Because I'm running on some assumptions that actually aren't connected to my SI.
Right. And it's also should be very subjective memories that you have because it's SI and not SE. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's in the end, that's all people really have are what's true for them. I
Yeah.
maybe that's a INTP ESFJ
No, yeah,
perspective of,
that's an SI thing because like for someone with SE, the sensory is in the moment, and
yeah.
the memories is what you've extracted from that.
Right.
Right.
The memories are what I run with. It's what I build my NE out of. It's what
Right.
works out of. It's what my FE builds from. So it's very crucial for me to get that. Way more important than being self-aware in the moment.
Right, right. Yeah, for your stack, for your type. Yeah.
Yeah, for my
Yeah.
type. Although I have come to find that if I am more self-aware in the moment, then I tend to store the SI more accurately. So in a
Really?
way, yeah,
Oh.
I'm
So
not
for
paying attention.
processing later, but you still have to go back and process it. Yeah.
Right. But if
Yeah.
I wasn't really taking it in properly in the first place, then I have corrupted data. So
Exactly. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
yeah.
So tell me about your plays. It's your second. So how do you see that
Yeah.
as being
Yeah.
true?
So I have play second and it's NF. And I think it plays out in my life in a way that I really like conversation because my play is double feminine, it's
Right.
tester.
Okay.
And so I experience the vibe of other people. I mean,
Right. It's
that's,
an NF too. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. NF double feminine play. Okay.
Yeah. So I take in, I like to say I visit other people's worldviews.
Right.
You know, it's like I want to experience other people and their paradigms and how they experience life and
Wow.
what flavor they are as a person.
That's really cool because other people would appreciate it when you do that too.
Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
usually do. Yeah, even though I talk a lot, they feel heard. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of that. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Then your blast is third. Do you see that there's a hobby there with that, or?
Yeah, I'm really into like crafty things. I mean, not currently, but there's a long history of like scrapbooking
I see.
um, and decorating
That's
and
very SF too. Yeah.
very SF.
And then
And
you
it's
also have that thing that you did with Monica, that color. What's it?
yeah, color analysis.
Color analysis.
It's taking color and grouping it by color quality, and
Right.
then finding and then seeing by the tone of people's skin what color quality looks best on them,
Wow.
what harmonizes best with their skin tone. So it's really interesting because it's a very visual, sensory thing, and
Yeah.
I was interesting because my blast is visual. It's
Right.
because my consume is audio. It makes my blast visual. So I don't necessarily, my SF is always about visual presentation.
Right. Yeah. So I just made the connection that you were talking about the lipstick and what makes your teeth whiter from this dentist. But and so it's like, yeah, interesting. Okay. It's
Yeah,
like,
and I think about that a lot too. I think, well, when people SF, what kind of SF are they doing? You know,
right.
what kind of things are they? For me, it's how I present the way things look, and it's not really strong. It's a hobby level, but I'm sort of always curious about the way people present themselves visually, or present a house visually, or
Really
present a magazine visually. What's the visual presentation that someone else is doing?
interesting.
Yeah. So when I look at something and the quality of how it looks, I'm usually thinking about the person who made it rather than how I'm taking it in.
The reason why that's so interesting is because you're supposed to be audio, one, and two,
Uh-huh.
that's very SE.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I have audio. I
Right.
I learned by listening. I could never do a college course by just reading the book. I had to show up and listen to the professor. I had to hear it.
Right.
It,
Interesting.
it's really hard for me to take things in, like
Visually.
really absorb things visually. It's a lot easier audibly.
Hmm.
But when I look at things, there's more of a what would I do? Almost like I'm NEing my imaginative version of that, and I'm
Right.
thinking putting myself in the place of the creator, and I'm like, would I have done it that way, the way they did it,
Really.
or would I have
Okay.
moved this on the left? You know, they composed it this way. How would I have composed it? So I'm always sort of imagining myself as the visual composer.
Yeah. I don't know how that fits into your type. How do you think that fits into your type?
Well, I kind of think that all of the animals have one of the modalities. So
Right.
my NT consume is audio. My NF play is test. My
That's
SF
interesting. I've never heard
blast
that.
is visual. It's just I don't even know if it scales, but it's true for me.
Where did you get that from? Just
There's
from
my
interesting.
TI.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. We're gonna have to. Why don't you pose that in a class question or something? That would be interesting.
I think I read it out once,
Right.
and like someone had said, I don't feel like my modality matches. And I was like, oh, that's because your modality is tied to your missing function. When you actually
Wow.
look where it shows up in your functions, it's tied to the missing animal, the one
You
that's
gave me
left.
something to think about right now. That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah,
Wow.
so I was, I might pose it the question. Those of you who are struggling with the modality you were given, is that modality aligned with your last animal? How many people would track with that? That'd be an interesting question.
Right. So for my last animal, it's supposed to be sleep, and double masculine and consume. So that would be
Double masculine and consume. If you're consume play, then your play function would be MF because it follows, and that
right.
would make your sleep function FM, which is
Right.
visual.
But yeah, my modality is my play function. Yeah. That's where my
Yeah.
modality fits. So that's what you're saying? Where your modality fits
My modality happens
is
to
your
fit.
blast.
Yeah. No, my consume is audio. So so I don't have any dissonance between my sense of self
Right.
and the modality they gave me because they're a match. Because I have NT consume and it's MF consume. They
Right.
because
But
my
okay, so
my
I'll have to rewatch it and figure that out.
yeah.
Cuz like I
There's
was
a whole matrix
thinking
of idea there.
right, right. I was thinking maybe you were saying where your sensory and your extroverted decider land is where your modality is, but now you're talking about consume, so okay.
My first function is consume,
Right.
and it is audio. And they told me I was audio, which made sense because I experience things primarily audibly. But
Interesting.
one thing they said in my video was they're like, you have a lot of visual hobbies. We're not sure what that's about. And and in the months since, it's been almost a year, I was like, well, that's because my hobby function is visual,
Yeah, FF. Yeah. Interesting.
or FM.
FM.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, sorry, FM. MF. Yeah. No, well, how's that true? Because your that's where your sensory is. Your sensory is the
It is,
masculine.
yeah, yeah. If you follow it around, the audio is already taken. So the flip side of that would be visual.
The opposite. Okay.
Is
Oh. So okay, so okay. I'm trying to get this from. So okay. So now you're saying your
uh-huh.
first animal is where your modality lands. So my first animal is consume and that's where my audio would be? That's what you're saying?
No, it happens to be true for me.
Okay.
But if your first animal doesn't match up with your extroverted decider and your sensory, then it's not going to work. Because your extroverted decider and your sensory are where your modality shows up.
But but your extroverted decider and your sensory are in your blast.
Right. Yes. I think it's because my TI is first, and that makes
All
it.
right. We'll have to
And
talk about it later.
I
Yeah.
know we're trying to
Yeah, yeah.
dig into this one
No,
little theory, but
this is really fun. This is
let's split hairs here. Really dig into
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. No, this is fun. I really like this. This is like good TI stuff. But I think the tribe,
Yeah,
my FE's kicking in. It's
all
like the
part of
tribe is going to be
it.
like, "What's going on? Do you like the actual interview?"
Right,
Cool.
right. We're like, okay, now we
Yeah.
should F again. We should think about the audience.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. 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 Let's touch on your FE really quick. We'll talk about your YouTube channel with Monica, and then maybe if you have one last message. Okay. So tell me about your FE a little bit if you want to go in deeper with it.
Okay, I really like to get along with people. I'm very
Right.
conflict averse. I have feelings. I'm aware of them. They usually get triggered by other people as opposed to just me and myself and doing this thing. It's
Right.
my relationships and my emotions tend to go hand in hand.
Right.
And um, and in fact, sometimes I can't muster a feeling until I concoct a relationship. So usually it's with other people that the emotions show up.
Interesting. Okay. And do you think that like it helps you understand people? Does it help you read them? Does it help you get the
Yeah,
vibe?
yeah.
Yeah.
very much into tone of voice and body language and eye
Wow.
contact. And when you start to see that stuff, then you start to, well, like, oh, was it Robert Greene? Is that the guy that just did like last week or the week before?
Yeah,
The one,
yeah.
he did the whole book on it
Right.
about the second language of reading people. And because they'll say one thing, but their body will say something else.
I
And
see.
when you start to understand that second language, you begin to understand pieces of their psyche that they need you to know, but that they don't know how to articulate, or maybe they're afraid to articulate, or they're not conscious of, all that
Right.
stuff will come out in how they hold their shoulders, which way their feet are pointing. There's just a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube about it, but also when you start to get that, I experienced it a lot in a vibe,
Right.
because with my NF play, I'm always like reading the vibe of people, whether they're, standoffish, or whether they're warm, whether they're leaning in or out, the smile, whether it's fake or authentic.
Right. Are you able to see contradictions between the vibe and what they're saying?
Oh yeah, yeah. And usually that is a sign that they're trying to be polite, but they're really struggling.
Okay. All right.
You know, they don't want to and with FE, there's a certain layer of lying, you know.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
certain,
yeah.
you say these things, you are appropriate.
Yeah,
This is
I get that because like you don't want to be completely TI. Like TI is the truth for us, and you have to
yeah,
come off in a way that's sort of unallying so that people can accept it and hear you and get along with you.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
some of that is just social protocol. You just understand
exactly.
what
Yeah,
creates a safe emotional space.
yeah.
But there's a layer of it where you can read what people are actually experiencing and going through, and you're like, okay, they're at the funeral, but they look like they want to burst into laughter, but they're not going to. But they look like they could.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool that yeah, it's double activated for you too. So yeah. Mine's also supposed to be double activated, but body language and nonverbal, that's always been hard. Maybe it's because like your play is NF.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's because it's almost an intuitive level thing where I just sort
Right.
of,
Yeah.
I'm like, that person is not comfortable. This room is there, the vibe in this room is off. And then you look and you're like, okay, who's not talking? Where's the elephant in the room kind of thing.
That's really cool. Yeah. I'm jealous.
I don't always have it turned on, because if I'm an
Yeah,
NT
yeah.
consume, it's a switch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so your YouTube channel, you were saying like you and Monica is just something that you guys do for fun, but I'll post it if people want to see because you guys just sort of go back and forth sort of thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
take turns.
We're both NT. She's NT play. I'm NT consume, and we both wanted to just practice being on YouTube, being public, saying things to each other, having
Right,
something that was a little bit more routine. That was
right.
another thing. Can we do something that is predictable, in at least on a weekly basis, and can
Oh,
we
because
keep
of that NE.
sustainable? That's an SI thing for us. Can we keep
Yeah,
doing?
that's really cool. So then you're practicing your SI and your sleep a little bit too in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, it's got the thing where 1 week we're talking about cookies and the next week we're talking about philosophy, because it's still like all over the
Still
place.
NE. Yeah. Okay. Right. Cool. And is there like a message that you want to say, that's something that's interesting, or I don't know, to the tribe?
I didn't have one prepared, so
All right.
I
Yeah,
don't.
that's fine.
Yeah,
Great. Awesome. Thank you very much, Heather. It was awesome to meet you finally and talk to you. Yeah.
yeah. It was great to talk to you too. Thanks for interviewing.
Awesome. Have a good one. Bye.
Okay, bye.